Real stories, raw truth. This is Whiskey and War Stories.
Welcome to Whiskey and War Stories, real and raw conversations with veterans and first responders, exploring the silent battles of mental health, trauma, and resilience. Because every story deserves to be heard, and every pour has a purpose. What up, guys?
What's up, man?
Welcome back. Welcome
Yeah.
back. How
What's up,
we
gentlemen?
doing? What
What's
up?
up,
What
brother?
up?
Yeah, excited, man.
This
Finally,
is
it's been how many months now?
I think August, bro. August of last year was our last recording.
Almost a year, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and I'd like to say better. You know, we are back and better.
Yes.
A lot has happened within this almost year. You know, we took a little break. A lot of things were going on. Jaime, you took off to training out in
Yep.
Quantico, so that
Mhm.
was pretty cool. We'll definitely have to touch on that, see how that went. I know it was kind of like a leadership style course, right?
Yeah.
Something along that. Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, I started school, going to University of Laverne, so that's exciting. So yeah, man, we've had a lot happen within this almost year of us. Um, I don't want to say being, I mean, maybe MIA from podcasting, right? But
Yeah.
you know, we still try to show a presence online, and we've actually done some events, you
Yeah.
know, outside of
Mhm.
podcasting. Memorial Day, we had that Murph event at GSA. That was pretty cool, fun.
The cigar night at Mi Havana in
Cigar
Pomona.
night, yeah, Mi Havana cigar
That
night
was
with Almani Police Officers Foundation.
and involved the stealing.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah.
So although we've been a little quiet on the radio,
Podcast night. Yeah.
yeah, we've still been going at it with events. I definitely want to get into, you know, what's happening, what's new, and what's to come. But you know, as in each and every single episode, we like to dedicate it to a fallen hero, and Jaime has the honors for doing that tonight. Jaime.
Yeah. So just for everybody going forward, um, because now we're doing it virtually instead of in person. We'll still do the bottle dedication and the fallen hero dedication. Although the three of us might be drinking a different whiskey, we'll still give one whiskey a shout out. That will be our host whiskey, if you will.
Yeah.
And then the person that hosts the whiskey will also choose our fallen hero. So for this first episode, we thought it was most appropriate to honor Baldwin Park police officer Samuel Riveros. It was just killed recently, actually, May 31st of this year. And I think it's really hits close to home because, you know, Baldwin Park is so close to us. And it's
Yeah.
not just that Baldwin Park is, you know, a sister agency. It's so close that when a really major critical incident like that happens,
Hmm.
is there a lot of background? Who's got the background?
Yeah. Ryan. I think Ryan, you got some background. Let me see.
That's good. Perfect.
Hold up. Oh, it's back.
Um, yeah. So, anyways, you know, when a critical incident happens like that at such a close department, all the other departments they kind of help out. And our department was no different. You know, once we found out that an officer was injured, we didn't even know at the time if he was killed or not. They basically request assistance from neighboring agencies, and our
Yeah.
agency was one of the ones that went down immediately. Went to go assist in whatever capacity they needed us in. And then the following days after that, you know, a lot of our patrol officers actually assisted their department in handling calls for service, basically allowing their own cops to mourn, you know, Samuel.
Yeah.
So I'll read you the bio of what happened. Baldwin Park Police Department, Police Officer Sammy Riveros, end of watch, Saturday, May 31st, 2025. Police Officer Sam Riveros was shot and killed while responding to reports of gunfire at the 4200 block of Philhurst Avenue in Baldwin Park. At 7:12 p.m., when two officers arrived at the scene, they found one man unresponsive with a gunshot wound before they were met with gunfire. During the shootout, one of the officers was injured after bullets hit his patrol vehicle. Officer Riveros also responded to the shooting call to assist the officers. He ran into the hail of bullets, preventing the shooter from targeting the officers and the other community members in the neighborhood. Officer Riveros was transported to Los Angeles County USC Medical Center, where he was pronounced deceased. Investigators recovered a rifle and 60 spent shell casings at the scene. The man found unresponsive was shot and killed over a parking dispute. The suspect was struck with non-life-threatening wounds. He was charged with 2 counts of murder with special circumstances, 2 counts of attempted murder, and a charge of possessing an assault weapon. Officer Riveros had served with the Baldwin Park Police Department for 9 years. He is survived by his wife and children. And he was with Baldwin Park for 9 years and 6 months, and he was 35 years old at the time of his passing. So, yeah, pretty tragic. And I know before we hit the record button, I had asked you, Q, because you just had a birthday yesterday, as a matter of fact. Yeah. I asked you how old you turned, and you said that you turned 35.
Yeah.
And just, sucks because you got this guy that's 35 and, almost 1/3 of the way through his career and,
right.
Gets killed in such a tragic way. So, really tough. And I'm sure a lot of Baldwin Park police officers, which I think, Ryan and I probably know a handful, maybe could be future guests.
Yeah.
At some point, so yeah. So, cheers to Sammy Riveros, and rest in peace, brother.
Cheers. Rest in peace. Yeah, man, it's tragic for sure. I think if I remember correctly, they were saying that was the first loss in Baldwin Park history or something like that with the department.
Yeah, their first officer killed in the line of duty.
Yeah, man, that's it's very unfortunate, and especially so young, dude, and even having all that time, right? Mm-hmm. We never really know when it's our time to, punch that time clock.
Yeah. So. Ryan, do you know some folks that work down there? Something like that?
Yeah, I did. So about 10 years ago, I worked on a multi-agency crime impact team, and we consistently had somebody from Baldwin Park there. So we'd work in Baldwin Park once a week, kind of chasing gang members, people on parole, things of that nature. So yeah, I was able to meet a good handful of their guys. Really good crew out there, very professional police department. What really struck a chord with me is their culture is a lot like, Pomona. A lot of hard charging cops.
Yeah.
Cops that started as explorers, cadets. They wanted to be cops their whole lives. So it's that kind of culture, much like ours. So this one, much like with the El Monte OASs and deaths, kind of struck home with me as well.
Yeah, that's a true statement. They're, their departments are like very, very homegrown cops. A lot of them started there when there was, kids and through Explorer program and kind of grew up. And that was like they had their hearts set at working at that department, much like Ryan and myself and, a handful of cops there that, we just wanted to work Pomona our whole careers. That's all we ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of sad. I'm sure in the future we'll definitely get some folks on here from Baldwin Park.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to
I got bottled this week.
Yeah. So the bottle.
Okay, so as we break into our new season of Whiskey and Warstories, this first episode here, Whistle Pig. This is a bottle of Whistle Pig, aged in charred American oak casket. It's a wheat bourbon whiskey, and this is a special edition Whistle Pig. It's proofed with liquid death mountain water. So here's what the bottle looks like here.
Fancy.
Nice.
Yeah, it's we're at 43%, so about 85% proof.
Shame on you, Jaime. I thought it was 90 or above.
It's I start out.
It's the first episode.
I start out conservative. I know Ryan went straight to
sloppy.
Ryan went straight to the 118. I think he's got our bottle.
Yeah,
He's drinking.
Is that what that is?
So yeah.
Yeah, that's what that evolve is right there.
Yeah, so you're at when you're below your 90s, it's a smooth whiskey. You don't really have much of a bite at the end, and a little bit of a caramely taste, a little leathery taste at the end, but overall, it's a good whiskey. And shout out to my brother who actually bought this for my birthday for me. So
Nice.
this is a perfect occasion to crack it open.
Nice.
Yeah. So cheers to Whistle Pig. Good whiskey.
Cheers.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
So as we keep trucking forward, I think you kind of mentioned something right as you were doing the dedication, that we're kind of changing things up, right? Ever since we started this podcast, we were always doing recordings in person, and that's kind of how we kept it going.
Sure.
Right? And but I think with everything that's been going on and how busy we all get, like I said, I'm in school, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think you just started school as well, right?
I did just start school. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Ryan wants me to say or not. I know he's really humble, but Ryan finished his second master's degree not too long ago. So
there you go.
Yeah.
But
not one, but two. Yeah. So
there's a disclaimer there I always say is obviously degrees don't make you smarter. So some of the people I know have master's degree.
Hey, degrees test obedience, not knowledge.
Some of the smart people I know don't, but thank you.
Touche.
Yeah,
Touché.
But
I wasn't talking about you, Jaime. You're smart.
No, damn it.
So for all our listeners and viewers, this is what we're going to be doing moving forward is virtual style recordings, which after we discussed it kind of works out for us because we actually have a lot of people that have wanted to come on the podcast, but live across the country, and some are even across the country. Some are even in other countries, and so being able to do it like this, we're able to kind of reach further with those that want to jump on, those that want to share their stories and things like that. So, I feel like it's a win-win. Plus, like I said, with how busy we all get, just us being able to share drink and share stories from the comfort of our own home, that's a plus, right?
Yeah. I know when we stopped doing the podcast for a while, it was a culmination of a couple things. One, we had lost the studio, I guess, for lack of better words. It was lent to us by a friend, and unforeseen circumstances happened. So we no longer had the studio. So that kind of put us behind. At or around that time, I was leaving to Quantico for training for 3 months. So there was we had planned to have a little hiatus. We didn't realize it was going to turn into something so long. But honestly, it was a blessing in disguise, because I think doing it virtually, it takes away the stress of, finding in-person guests. Because, it at times it became a little stressful to find guests. And sometimes at the last minute, they backed out. And we had to find fill-ins. So it was always...
I was going to say, or even when we would have a guest, at least I would kind of feel bad sometimes when, we're in the IE, right? So, and our studio was in the IE, and when we would have guests from San Fernando Valley come all the way down, it's like, Oh,
in
brother, and
traffic.
then some of those recordings we don't get done until later at night.
Mhm.
So, yeah, man, for sure, I definitely agree with you that this definitely takes away that pressure of having to constantly find someone in person, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and I think it just
excuse me.
opens up the floodgates for
Oh, for sure.
more guests. So
Yeah, I already got people kind of talking to me about wanting to come on and share their story. So I'm excited for this. I'm really excited for this. And to if anything, man, this is gonna just help us push out even further and reach other people that want to share their stories. And one of those stories that we've heard before is our this fine gentleman here, Ryan. Um, we haven't done any introductions yet, just because he's been on the podcast before. He was actually, I think, like
yes,
almost one of our first guests that we had on. It was I know Corey was like the first one, if I remember correctly, and then I think Ryan was like right after or something like that. But with these changes of doing virtual recordings and sitting down, we actually added a third co-host, and that fine gentleman is Ryan Rodriguez, guys.
welcome,
So,
Ryan.
Ryan, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to sitting down and sharing stories and glasses of whiskey with us. Like I said, you've been on before, but you know, uh, give us a little refresher on who you are. Give our listeners a little refresher on who you are, and just kind of what makes you like get into podcasting, and why.
Well, first of all, the fact that I'm able to share a delicious glass of whiskey every podcast had nothing to do with me saying yes when you guys are gracious enough to invite me.
Not at all. Not at all.
No, first of all, thank you for the invite to have me aboard. It was very honored. I equated to that movie with Mark Wahlberg, Rockstar. He's got his favorite band. He always sees his favorite band, and then they call somebody up to the big leagues. And you guys are the rock stars. So,
Oh, no, dude.
Very honored. No, I'm a huge fan of you guys. So I'm in awe just being here with you guys. Your message and your purpose is just awesome for what you guys do. So thank you for that.
Thank you, man.
So yeah, just about me. 25 years last month in law enforcement. Work with Jaime at the Pomona Police Department. Very proud Pomona police officer. Talked about coming up, as Jaime and I did as explorers. And, you just get ingrained in this culture that you want to work for a hard charging agency. You want an agency that really is in tune with the community. Just goes out there and makes the world a better place. We work in Pomona, which is a very fast-paced city, but if you take the mindset that you could make the world a better place, one call at a time or one interaction at a time, then it's worth it. But grew up in Pomona. I have a big interest, as you guys do, in employee wellness, officer wellness, troop wellness. Thankfully, our police department, our chief, started a very robust employee wellness program, which is amazing for our troops, and we're already seeing the positive benefits of it. So for me, to be able to come here and extend that here on this podcast, thanks to you guys, just means the world to me. So very excited to be here. Happily married, been married 9 years to my wife. She's a veteran, Jackie, Air Force veteran, did over 10 years in the reserves, and now she works for the San Bernardino County DA's office. She had a leadership podcast herself a couple of years ago.
Oh,
Put on leadership classes in person, seminars. So she's a rock star. Now she's a boxer, so very good boxer. So I just sit quietly in the corner and don't say anything these days.
Hey, smart man.
Oh yeah, I've learned.
Smart man.
I've learned. But no, she's awesome. And then obviously,
awesome,
proud father, my 8-year-old boy Nolan Ryan Rodriguez, who I named after,
Nice.
baseball player. So very, very proud dad. He's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Nice.
My brothers, we're all Pomona police officers, or 4 of us at one point working at the Pomona Police Department. So just very excited to be here. I'm a student. Let me be quiet some of the times. I'm just learning from you guys. Thanks for the opportunity, and excited about the positive change we can make on this podcast.
Oh, of course, man. Thank you for joining us and being a part of this and helping this grow. I know, you know a lot of people within the industry that you guys are in, the career that you guys are in. So, I'm excited for things that you can share, the insight and wisdom. And I'm sure Jaime's excited because he gets to, I guess, talk to you some more. I don't know how your guys' relationship is, but
Yeah, no, I mean, we've been friends for years, and we grew up in the department together. Ryan's been a cop, 5-6 years longer than I have, but we grew up in the department together. He and I actually worked specialized assignments together. We were on SWAT together. We were on a federal task force together. So we were actually partners at one time. Now he's, happy to say my boss. I know a lot of people hate their bosses, but I always tell people, man, I love my job, dude. I have great coworkers. I love the people that I supervise. I love my peers, and I have great supervision. It's like so.
Yeah. See, I'm sorry.
That makes a world of difference in a career and a profession, man. So, I'm honestly very happy with my professional life. It's phenomenal. I couldn't ask for anything better. And honestly, I guess the real reason that we brought Ryan on is, if I were to say that it was because you're a good friend, I that's true, but I would be lying. The fact of the matter is, and if you listen to his episode, he speaks very well. He talks very, very, very well. As a matter of fact, when there's functions at departments, retirements, and those type of things, Ryan is often called upon to make like speeches, and he's one of those that he can speak off the cuff really well. He's just a really, really good public speaker, and I'm sure it hasn't come without years of practice and those type of things. But and he's insightful. So great communication and emotionally intelligent. So honestly, I think we tapped into that. So that's the real reason that we, when we were talking about having another co-host, I think he was at the top of the list, light years above anybody else, second to none.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So he's a great addition.
You propped me up so much. I better keep it to one whiskey and keep that reputation going.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. When Jaime was like, "Hey, Ryan, think about joining the podcast and whatnot," and Jaime is absolutely correct. Yeah, Ryan, you're so well spoken, and a part of me was like, bro, like I sound like an idiot on this podcast, and now with Ryan coming on, I'm like, gosh, dang it.
No.
Well, honestly, if you listen to our first couple episodes, I mean, we
were wasted in some of them.
Leaps and bounds. And I think we were trying to figure it out. We didn't know what to do.
Oh, for sure.
It was a lot of trial and error, and our intent wasn't to drink, and I think it just because of the stories that we talked about, the alcohol had a tendency to help us sort of unpack some stuff. So I think since then we've learned how to manage a lot of stuff, and through therapy and those type of things, we've come leaps and bounds to where we are now. So here we are.
Yeah. No, for sure, man. I still thinking back at those first couple episodes that we recorded, man, and just seeing how far we've come, or at least finding that direction of what we want to do, what we want to talk about, or at least how do we want to establish episodes. Because man, you're right. Like when we first started, like we always shoot from the hip, right? Like But when we first started, it was like very, very shooting from the hip, and there was, there was a lot of trial and error. So, I mean, I think our very first episode, like we used a little rinky-dink mics, and the audio was trash, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was just all bad. But
And you know what?
yeah,
I think now too. Ryan touched on it just a tad bit, but it's important for us because there are people in our department and in our profession, neighboring agencies and friends and stuff that actually listen to this, and we want to make sure that we're sending out a good message, especially to like young cops that may
right,
tap into this, or may tap into this in the future. We want to give a positive message coming from, cops that have, been a couple decades into the business,
right,
and don't listen and just be like, man, these guys are completely screwed up. We want people to leave here
yeah,
like, holy crap, like that's really profound. Like what they said was they hit the nail, right on the head. So
yeah,
I think it's important for us, what we're doing here to leave
yeah,
a lasting impression on, not just our folks, but whoever listens to this podcast, so
yeah.
I think it's, a testament of where we came from, to where
Oh,
we
for
are today.
sure. Yeah.
So
And it was crazy, man, because we actually had a guest, well, that had come on, and I don't want to name drop or anything like that, because when this guest came on, he shared his story. He had a great time.
mm,
He complimented us. Well, he eventually got asked to go be on another podcast because he said that two of his friends were starting a podcast, and similar kind of situation, just come on, share your
sure.
stories, and so on and so forth. And bro, he ended up saying that he sat down, he talked, but they got like completely trashed to the point where they
Mm,
were getting sick on themselves.
yeah.
And I remember after he did that one, he reached out to me, and I'm pretty sure I still have the message, but he was pretty much saying like, hey dude, like, you guys keep doing what you're doing, and like the way you guys have
Yeah.
established your podcast, because not a lot of people have the drive or direction and anything like that. And then he told me his experience with with the other podcasts, and he was like, bro, like it was a mess. He's like, I ended up having to call it like early on the recording because we were getting nowhere with our conversations. So yeah, I definitely stand on what you're saying, that you don't want to be known as that drunk podcast that just speaks out of their ass, right?
Sure. Yeah.
um
So we'll just throw like a couple things out there, like where we're a few small changes other than the virtual thing. We're still focused on PTSD. We're still focused on mental health. But we talked about, also throwing some leadership stuff in there
yeah.
too. And I think that's, leadership really goes hand in hand with, PTSD and mental health, because it takes leadership a lot of times to get out of those oftentimes dark places.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, and actually that was Ryan's contribution to this. When we had first asked him, he talked about maybe morphing it into a little bit of leadership stuff too.
Nice.
So I thought it was a great idea. So I'm looking forward to where we're going. And honestly, I think this just opens up the floodgates for guests because of the convenience of it.
Yeah.
So I'm just super excited, super excited about
Same.
it. So
Yeah, I'll tell you guys, man, when I first started listening to your podcast, just to hear the gravity of the turmoil that troops go through, it's just, you hear about it, and
yeah,
God bless you guys for being in the military. I wasn't. My brother Hector was. But, I've known him my whole life, and at work he has this reputation for being very calm under fire. So I had this perception of him as a very stoic, squared away individual, which he is, but we kind of started to get to know each other better on the SWAT team and on the federal team that we worked on. And that's really when Jaime really started talking to me about his experiences in the Middle East, and he's been through some crap, to say the least. But when he keyed me into the stuff that goes on in his mind or at home when he's sleeping or can't sleep, it's like, wow, that's crazy. So just an amazing podcast for you guys to be able to put this message out. I'm also like a big history buff, little known fact about me. And I'm reading a book right now. And I also saw the movie of, you guys heard of the USS Indianapolis?
Mm-hmm.
So it went down in 1945, got torpedoed by a Japanese sub. Of about 1,200 people on ship, 300 died instantly, 800 went in the water. Long story short, they were in the water for 4 days, shark-infested water, where sharks would literally come up and just take them down, and blood-curdling screams. I can't imagine the mental anguish that they went through, like, who's next? They'd literally be in the water, treading water at night, dark, in the middle of, close to the Philippines. And, I think 300 people ended up surviving. But of the 900 that went in the water, like 600 died, and 300 of them horrendously mauled and killed by sharks.
Jeez.
But, of reading that book and you see that the mental anguish, these individuals are in their 90s now. There's only a few surviving, but they talk about, the only outlet they had was alcohol back then, right?
Yeah.
And to hear about the stuff that they go through at home still at 90 is just crazy. They didn't have the outlet, thankfully, that podcasts like yours put out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just an eye-opening podcast, and I just loved hearing the stories from your veterans and Q, and obviously you have your story as well. Very interesting. And again, just excited to be part of that.
Yeah, I remember when Ryan and I were talking about this several months back. He had said, "Hey, you should reach out to, a couple old Pomona cops that had retired. That when they were working, they were legends. Even after they left, they were still looked upon as kind of legends." And I won't mention names, but I did reach out to one retiree in particular. And I was really excited, I think, to have him come on, and because he had such a great career, really stoic guy. A lot of cops looked up to him back in the day. And I remember when I actually reached out to him on Facebook. We follow each other on Facebook, and asked if he would come on the podcast, which he was already aware of because he saw stories that I had posted before and stuff. And this guy was, I think, retired as a sergeant. Great career. Before that, he was in the Marine Corps. And he said, "You know what? I would love to be a guest on your podcast, but I'm still battling my own demons." And I think he's in his late 70s at this point, maybe early 80s. And when I heard that, this is someone that everybody looks up to, but behind closed doors, even the heroes, the hardcore guys, the real stoic ones, behind closed doors when everything's dark and people are alone, they're dealing with traumas too, So when I said that, I remember when he sent me that message, I think like a new door opened up. I had realized that at that point that what we do is important, because we want to try to intervene so that a lot of the people in our profession, military, first responders, that maybe something we say or by them speaking, it will help them take a different course, because God forbid they spent a whole career doing this, law enforcement or military, and they their issues go unchecked,
Right?
And you're still dealing with this in their their later years when you should be enjoying life and vacationing and just living it up, right? So I think we're trying to do that. We never market ourselves as therapists or professionals. Just a couple folks that have have had our feet in the fire at one point or another in our life, and I'm trying to share our experiences with others that may have similar experiences or that don't have similar experiences, have different experiences, but um, still the same common goal of kind of healing, I guess, if you
Oh,
will.
for sure.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. No, it definitely does. And, I just think one of the common themes that we would get, with our military uh, counterparts and even, first responders, is a lot of us, a lot of our brothers and sisters out there, they feel like they're the only ones that are feeling the way they feel,
Yeah,
right? A lot of them think that they're alone in this silent battle, and which is not the case. It's
sure.
a lot of us end up
Mhm.
feeling the same way. Some might feel it harder than others. But yeah, man, it's tough. I'm going on, shoot, about a year and a half. I think it's been about a year and a half since I started like therapy and stuff like that.
Sure.
And yeah, man, it's still working on myself every day, right? I don't think I'll ever be uh like 100%. I don't know what you want to call it, but um you find ways to mitigate a lot of these thoughts and a lot of these
Sure.
emotions and how to process them. And so yeah, that's why, like, for me, like this and therapy itself, like that's a huge component to my life, and being able to continue to move forward and sharing a platform for other first responders and veterans to talk about their life, right?
Sure. Hmm.
um so yeah, man, it's tough out there, and we just have to be that one helping hand, and like we've said before, as long as this episode touches one person, like just one person,
Yeah, it's
we're
worth it.
happy. It's 100%, it's worth it. And I think we're doing an okay job, right? I think we're doing a decent job, because we've had people reach out to us and share, how certain episodes help them out, and
Hmm.
so on and so forth. So, this is why I knew we couldn't, we kind of had to reorientate and
Yeah.
you know figure out how we're going to move forward. And so, you know,
Yeah, and you said, you don't think you'll ever be 100%, but the truth of the matter is, I don't think I've ever met anybody that's 100%. Um, it's like,
true.
doing employee evaluations. Ryan. If the employee as far exceeds standards on everything, it's almost like they're a robot.
Yeah,
You know what I
true.
mean? I mean,
True.
um, I guess maybe you can have a perfect employee. But I mean, every human, right? Humans are by design, we're flawed. We're not meant to be perfect. We're not AI. We're not robot.
Nor
You
nor
know,
nor is nor as a police department do we want an angel or the perfect person,
sure.
because that person does not become relatable to the people they're trying to help mentor or police.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's you bring up a good point, Jaime, with being a perfect person. And I know this is probably going to ruffle some feathers and
Mhm.
whatnot, but uh I just know people that are doing so much to heal themselves to the
Mhm.
point where they're perfect, or there's no more trauma in their life, right?
Yeah.
um but to me, it's I don't do therapy to essentially try to make me back to 100% or make me that perfect person. I do therapy to help me process through emotions and feelings and thoughts and whatever goes through my mind. I see therapy, or whatever therapies you use, as a you're being proactive to
Sure.
what's happening instead of being reactive. Because I feel like the less, or yeah, the less you try to fix yourself, you end up reacting to to these emotions and these feelings. Whereas if you're seeking therapies, you kind of learn how to be proactive to it. Like, oh, physiologically, I'm feeling something. What's happening? And you try to start, going down the list of what's making you feel the way you're feeling.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, for me, like I said, I know people that, to them, therapy or certain therapies are like I need to do this because I need to be that perfect person for my future partner or whoever I'm with or anything like that. Where it's like, but brother, that's kind of that's what life is about. Is going through some trials and learning from them, right?
Sure.
And I was having a conversation with my wife a couple of days ago about our kids, and she was talking about how she tries really hard to make sure that our kids don't fall, or nothing happens to them, right? Which I get it.
Sure.
I want them to be safe, and I don't want them to fall or fail at things 100%. But the reality of the matter is that they're gonna fall and they're gonna fail at some things. Now, me as a parent, at least, I feel like I would fail as a parent if I would cocoon my kids so much that they wouldn't know how to move past adversities. You know, for me, I feel like I'm doing a better job as a parent if I let my kid fall just so
Sure.
he can learn how to stand back up. Right.
Definitely.
And I feel like a lot of people, I feel like right now we're living in a day and age where victimhood is a virtue. And it's like,
good.
well, I don't want to learn how to get back up when I fall. I want to stay right here, and I want all you guys to see me and then feel bad for me.
Sure.
It's like, well, no, dude, like, come on, um,
And the same is to be said of, like leadership too. Since we're kind of throwing that into the mix of things, is the best leaders that I've ever worked for are the ones that always call themselves like the students of leadership, right?
oh, for sure.
They'll tell you that there's it's there's no exact science to it, and if one person says that they've you know I've done it, I figured leadership out, that's probably the one I don't want to work for, or probably the one I don't want to follow in their footsteps. But it's
Yeah.
the ones that's like, I'm a student, I'm still learning, and I'm still
Yeah.
reassessing, and those are the people I want to work for, because they're the human ones,
Yeah.
the ones that don't take thought and emotion out of what they do. They use that as part of their consideration in how they lead and what they do. So yeah, it's again, nobody's perfect. I don't think we'll ever achieve that, and that's by design, right?
Yeah.
So that we don't take that feeling out of things. Yeah. So
True. And it was funny. Talking about taking the human out of things. I don't know if you guys have seen the show on Netflix, Love on the Spectrum.
I've not seen it, but I know what I've seen the previews of it
Yeah,
on
so it's
Netflix.
pretty much a show where like, for Ryan, I think you said no, but it's pretty much a show where they get people with certain, like, mental disorders, whether high functioning autism, Down syndrome, things like that, and it's almost like a dating reality TV. Like, they try to find them love. And in one of the episodes, one of the guys that has like a very high functioning autism, when he gets nervous, he gets like so worked up, and he's trying to tell this girl that he's on a date with, like, that he likes her and he wants to pursue more with her and so on and so forth. And he, like, can't get it out. He's like stuck, and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And he's like doing like these kind of like trigger fidgets and whatnot. And the girl pretty much tells him, she's like, it's okay to feel nervous. Like, that makes you human. If you weren't feeling this, you wouldn't be human, right? So, I kind of like how you brought that up, because that just reminded me of that, where it's true. It's part of living life. Don't get me wrong. I'm not proud of some of the mistakes that I made in my past, but that's how I learned how to be who I am today, and try to become a better father and a better husband and a better friend, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
But as far as leadership, it's funny you brought up something about like about Ryan being your boss and so on and so
Mhm.
forth, and that you enjoy him. And I was gonna chime in and be like, yeah, I wouldn't know that feeling.
Well, you're your own boss.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I was
That's
like,
good.
yeah. Yeah. I was like, I guess I gotta love myself, right?
Yeah,
You know,
as was told to us by a therapist one time.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry,
What were
Ryan.
you gonna say, Ryan?
I was going to say, I have 25 years on in law enforcement, and I'm on the downslope for sure. Retirement age in a few years, and what some of us cops do in retirement is let's work again, right? But one
Yeah.
of the things that I'm wary of is going to work for somebody that's not going to be a good leader, who's going to treat me badly, who I'm not going to be motivated to work for, So I always have that in mind when I'm at work, and I'm overseeing other people. It's really, and I think I gave this disclaimer when I was a guest. So whenever we start talking about leadership, when I think of leaders, I think about people in the military, courage under fire. Those are the true leaders. So who am I, some police officer, to talk about leadership? But that being out the window, leadership really comes down to how you treat people and how you motivate them. You could
Yeah.
read all of the leadership books that you want, and you should, because leadership is not only innate for some people, but it could also be developed, and you could be even a better leader. But of all the leadership books I've taken, of all the leadership degrees I have, all the theories come down to one crux: is how do you treat people? How do you want to develop them? How are you sacrificing your own self for the betterment of others? That's essentially what it comes down to. If somebody wants to work for you, if they want to work hard for you, then you've already done half the battle. But you're talking to you of you being your own boss. That's worth its weight in gold, right? Because you get to dictate how your ship is run. I know that you are in charge of multiple barbers, and it's those leadership traits that you put out there that's going to dictate how they feed off you and how they perform.
Oh, for sure, man. And yeah, I appreciate that. It's we are our biggest, our hardest, or biggest
Biggest
critique.
critic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
critic. Um, and oh, dude, I think every day I'm like, oh, dude, like, am I good enough? Am I good enough to lead these people? And so I remember when I hired my most recent barber, um, I kind of had like this mixed emotion situation, because a part of me felt very proud of myself that I grew the team. I'm growing my business, and it might be a slow growth, but it's growing. Brick by brick. And I remember when the day that I hired him, and I was like, all right, man, when can you start, kind of thing. And he told me his date, and that day, as I'm driving home, um, I got a little emotional. I was getting, the waterworks were about to come on, and I was telling my wife, I was like, it's, like, I'm doing it. I'm making it happen. Like, I never once thought that I would be in this kind of role where I own my business and I have people under me, and I shouldn't say under me, but people working for me. And it felt good. But then, as like those feelings set in, I started thinking to myself, like, oh, well, am I good enough? Am I good enough to lead? Am I good enough to, have them follow me, and you know stay with me, and so on and so forth? And dude, I was like racking my brain that night, laying in bed. And I remember my wife was like, hey, like, you already did the biggest part on hiring him. Like, he chose to work with you. He chose to be in that shop. Like, he could have gone to any other place, but he saw you, he saw what you were about, and he chose to go with you. I was like, so she's like, take that, you know,
That's
use
big.
that and you know, give yourself like some grace, because like again, we're our biggest critic, and so yeah, but it's tough, and you know, like you guys were saying, it's you know, how do you want to, you know, steer the ship, and you know, establishing that culture and things like that. So luckily, you know, I've been blessed that, you know,
Good.
I'm in a good position, and you know, my business is going, and it's growing, and so
You know,
um
sorry, go ahead. I don't want to
no, go for it.
you know, Ryan was kind of defining the characteristics of, well, at least his leadership style, right? Like or what, you know, what defines a successful or good leader. You know, just kind of being human with people, and you know, sacrificing yourself sometimes for the greater good or for the folks that you lead. And you know, some of the stuff you were saying, you know, you would listen to it and you'd be like, well, that's pretty simple. That's not a tough
Yeah,
you know, mantra to follow. It's really simple. But to be honest with you, it isn't. You know, and we all know folks that were in leadership positions, and maybe not just in our work, but outside of our work, in the military, you know, sports, um, that just, man, they just were not strong leaders. They weren't good leaders. You know, it was actually the absence of leadership, and a lot of times, even though they were in a position to be a good leader, you know, they weren't. And I think they lost that thing, that simple thing that's just, you know, being humanistic with people. Just, you know, just be a decent human being with people, even if you
yeah,
have to, you know, even when you lead people and people screw up sometimes during those tough conversations, you don't got to be a dick with them. You know, you could still discipline people or reprimand people, and then walk out that room and like, man, that guy really does care about me. You know, that's the tough part about being a leader, right? Not just the everyday stuff where you're, you know, it's not just about motivating people. That's a factor of it. But, you know, when everything's hunky and dory, it's easy to be a leader. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
easy.
Yeah.
But it's when things get tough, when things get critical, when you got to get nitty and gritty. That's when the real leadership, that's when the real leadership comes out. You know, that's
Yeah.
when people and leaders are really put to the test in those ugly times, not the peaceful times. That's easy.
yeah,
That's nothing. Anybody could do that. You know, our youngest cop
Yeah.
could do that.
It's
But
like they
it's,
say, a good sea captain is not defined during calm waters. Right.
yes.
hmm
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
No,
Perfect.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to ask you guys, you know, a question about leadership, and what's your guys' take on how you guys feel about certain leaders, you know, that are timid, that are almost um non-confrontational, but
Mm.
in a sense of like that they just kind of want to avoid the problem instead of, you know, confronting it, right? Like what's how do you guys feel about someone that's timid or a little mellow in a leadership position?
I could picture some people at my work that fit into that mold. You know, good people, but they're exactly how you describe them, right? Essentially, they're going to lose credibility really fast, right? In addition to a leader being good with people and mentoring, right? They also have to have credibility. Where do they come from? What did they do to get to this point? It's going to want to make these people follow them, right? But to answer your question, no, you can't be that weak leader. You can't be undecisive. You could talk to anyone that knows me, and I'm very affable. Have a very good personality. I'm always optimistic, right? But I know how to ride that line. You know, if I need to discipline somebody, I have no problem doing it. But it's all how you communicate to people. Someone told me one time I have a good knack for, you know, disciplining someone, and they're thanking me. It's how you deliver, right? But to further answer your question, Q, yeah, you can't be that weak team leader, especially in an alpha dog world of law enforcement or military. You're going to get eaten up, right?
Right.
It's that old saying, don't mistake my kindness for weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Not conducive to a good outcome in our profession.
Yeah.
Jaime?
Yeah, so with the timid leaders, so I would say there's a couple things with that. One, if you're recently put into a leadership position, um, I guess I would have a little bit of leeway if you're timid because, like we talked about, you're a student of leadership. You should be studying and learning and doing these type of things. So if you're newer in a leadership role, in a leadership position, then I give you a little bit more leeway, and I guess I would expect you to sometimes make mistakes, and as you're learning to develop your leadership skills. On the flip side, someone that's been in a leadership position for a specific amount of time that's still timid, I definitely have an issue with that. And as a matter of fact, I would say that isn't leadership. That's the absence uh, of leadership. Because again, leadership it's not when, as Ryan says, the waters are calm. It's when it's dicey. It's when
Yeah.
there's rough waters. That's when real leadership comes. And if you're timid, you can't make decisions. You're afraid to have tough conversations with people. Then I would say that you're probably just a manager and you're following a script, but you're not really a leader, right? Because a leadership is having the ability to correct people when they're wrong. Leadership is sacrificing yourself for the good of the organization. Leadership is celebrating other people's accomplishments while yours stay hidden.
Yeah.
I can go over all these bullet points, but leadership isn't defined by timid. And as a leader, to be honest with you, at least in my point of view, as a leader, you can be afraid, right?
Oh, for sure.
You can be afraid, and you could be nervous, but that doesn't mean that you don't have courage, right?
Right.
I want good leaders to feel, sometimes we would say on the SWAT team, I do want people sometimes to be nervous when we're going through these doors, because I don't want them to be so confident that
Yeah.
they're overly confident to the point where they're complacent, right?
Yeah.
Because the old adage,
Absolutely.
complacency kills, right? So
Yeah.
I always say it's okay. It's okay to be nervous and to have fear sometimes, and that doesn't mean that overcompensates for being courageous.
Yeah.
So I think
Go ahead, Jaime.
no, go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, and great question by the way, Q. But I rather have a timid leader, if you want to call him that, at that point, any day of the week than the guy that's overbearing, just a jerk to his people.
Yeah.
And that's because the person that is timid, like Jaime said, it might be from a lack of experience, and maybe they could get it. But for the most part, from what I know, people that are timid have good hearts,
Right.
and their heart's in the right place. And I rather try and develop that person than the person on the opposite side of the spectrum. And that is because the person on the opposite side of that spectrum has ego. And ego is the number one thing that gets us in trouble.
Mhm.
Ego is the number one thing that's going to make people not want to follow you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's funny because I kind of, my barbering journey, I've worked in multiple barbershops before, and it was funny because I had gone from one barbershop where the manager was very egotistical, very micromanaging, very, just, he said he cared about, the guys, but the vibes that he was giving off just did not match, And then I've been in other barbershops where the leader was very timid, and I remember there would be situations where if I was the one getting reprimanded, like the leader is the one trembling while talking to me, It's like,
Yeah.
I should be the one trembling. I'm the one that's in trouble. Like, why are you shaking? Why are you stuttering? So yeah, it's I definitely see what you're saying, Ryan, where, which one you'd rather take. Because, yeah, it's true. I feel like it's easier for a leader to be molded into a tougher person than, that very arrogant, very egotistical, prideful leader that is so stuck in their ways. And it's like, no, I'm good. And I feel like when you run into a leader like that, they almost try to throw well, I've been running this ship for so long and, it hasn't sank. And it's like, well, just because hasn't sank, that doesn't mean that, people are about to throw themselves off the ship. Like, there's, so, yeah. And it's, and, it's just like finding that balance, so I mean, even for my situation with my guys, it's every employee isn't a one size fits all. We're human, and every employee is going to bring different personality and different perspective, and so it's getting to know them, right? I know that if I talk to John this way, I have to talk to Jacob this other way, right? So, yeah, it's just trying to find that happy medium, that balance. Yeah. So, as we were saying, it's definitely trying to find that good balance as a leader, and not even just as a leader, but as an employee as well. And just trying to make it through, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not I don't know much about the barber world, but imagine it's no different than law enforcement, where, like you said, you hit it on the head, is you have to tailor the way you approach people because people are different. They have different personalities. I'm sure you have a brand new barber that is, yes, sir, whatever you want. And you have a barber that's been a barber for 20 years that when you give him some direction, he might take offense to that, right?
Yep.
So if you take ego away from that and you realize I need to tailor my I have to have a tool bag of different tools in order to reach this person differently and motivate him.
Yeah.
I think.
And I'm sorry?
Yeah, I think if you're able to realize that, you're kind of halfway there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, you're spot on that. Yeah, it's I think now I would rather, work with a newer rookie barber or someone that hasn't been in the game that long than that guy that has almost 20 years. And I'm like, hey, bro, we wear ties for our uniform. And he's like, well, nah, dude, I don't want to do. It's like, brother, come on, So, so yeah, just trying to find that. And real quick, before we kind of wrap it up, you guys kind of touched on leaders that like can't grow, that feel like they know it all, and that they're just like, that's it, they're the leader, and there's no room for education. I can relate to that completely, because that's in barbering. You see that a lot, where I always laugh when I see barbers that have master barber in their like bio. And I'm like, master barber. I was like,
is that a real thing? Is it like a certificate from?
No, there's no certificate. There's nothing.
They bestow themselves the
yeah,
title.
they give themselves a title of master barber. Right. But my thing is like, so I've been cutting hair since I was 17, 18. I just turned 35. So I've been cutting hair for a long time, and I still feel like I don't know it all. Yeah. There's still days where I will cut someone's hair and I'm like, oh, bro, I'm kind of learning this new technique, So it just blows my mind when I see these people that are like, oh, master barber. And it's like, bro, really? You already capped yourself? You already capped yourself, dude. You're still so young. Like, really? Come on. So
if I see Chancellor or some shit like that before your name, I'm gonna call you on it. Then I'm just letting you know right now,
bro. The only thing that you'll see the only thing that you'll see, in front of my name is El Presidente.
Like the people at the bottom of their email signature, they have like everything they've done. It's like that long.
Yeah, exactly.
As long with what they've done.
Exactly.
I know
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what, guys, as we finish up here, I'm really excited to have this going again. Looking forward to our future guests, everything, as we progress and as we continue to grow this platform. And we started this for a great cause, and we're still pushing that same cause. So you know I'll let you guys kind of add in, finishing remarks. But real quick, for me, just Ryan, super excited for you to join us and be a part of this team, and helping us grow and just extend that hand to others that are in need of it. Look forward to sharing more conversations with you, and doing events and whatnot. So again, thank you so much for joining us, joining the team, and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. You know, uh, I truly appreciate what you bring to the table, and just excited to see what you share. So Jaime, any finishing remarks?
Yeah, I'll just kind of echo your sentiments. I think I'm most excited to have Ryan come aboard. I think with his experience, and just the way he communicates and able to talk, and um, I think it's just going to build upon what we've kind of already established, and where we're going to be going. I really am excited for like the future. I'm excited, where
Yeah.
we're going to go with it. I'm excited for the guests that we're going to have on, and really to see where this thing is going to go. We have the golf tournament on Monday. Those are always great for us because we meet great people, and we get a chance to sell some coins and do that type of stuff. But just really just really meet good people.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and I think with Ryan on board, that's going to exponentially increase what we're trying to do here. So just grateful to have you on, Ryan, and I'm beside myself. I'm really, really looking forward to what's going to come for us. So yeah, that's
Yep.
it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Ryan?
Yeah, exciting. Again, I can't thank you enough for asking me to come on this thing. I wouldn't say yes to just any podcast. I'm pretty critical of some stuff. Some by my design, some by my position. But you guys just squared away. The stuff you bring to the table is beneficial to so many people here, and you guys literally are probably saving lives. I'm sure you realize that. So I'm very, very proud to be part of that greater good. You guys faced adversity with not being able to find a place to do this in person, and you're turning it into a positive, like you said. I'm excited about this online format myself. I could think of some people a few states away that could never come on the show that would be beneficial to everyone.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
Yeah.
you guys are forward thinkers. You guys have good hearts. I could tell. Just very excited to be part of this team. I'm excited about our next one where we interview somebody, because I know interviewing someone is it's an art, right? You could have people that are talking over people, and you guys do very well. It's different me here spouting off today than actually interviewing someone. So I'm curious, a challenge for me to see how I'll do in that environment. But other than that, thanks again, and can't wait for the next one.
Awesome, man. Thank you
Thanks,
so
Ryan.
much. Excited to have you on. Real quick before we go, one more time for Police Officer Samuel Riveros.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers. Rest in peace. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, if you ever need any help, if you're ever going through anything, you're not alone. And there's always help out there, like we have said in previous episodes. If you ever need someone to talk to, you can always reach out to us, shoot us a DM, anything like that. We'll definitely respond and try to point you in the right direction. If not, you can actually dial, what is it? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting it right now. 988 that is the suicide hotline, and you press 1 for the veteran line at that point. But again, guys, thank you for joining us. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Good night.
Whiskey and War Stories out.